Welcome to episode 29 of Jesus Coffee and Barbells. My name is Amber George, and you can find me on Instagram at Refined by Iron.
And my name is Sarah Hoffman. You can find me on Instagram at Mommy McMomface.
You can also follow the podcast at Jesus Coffee Barbells. No space, no periods, no nothing. So today we're going to be talking about balancing work and home. And we're going to be talking about home education versus corporate education. But as always, with every episode, we start off with a question. So here is my question to Sarah.
I'm ready.
And I think I know the answer. But I'm going to ask, do you prefer warm weather or cold weather?
I prefer warm weather.
Okay.
100%.
Okay, see, look, there's something we agree on.
Did you pick this question because you knew that we would have something in common?
No, I did not actually.
Okay.
I didn't. I was actually, so after you left, so we hung out today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And after you left, I was vacuuming real quick, and I was thinking, I was like, what kind of question can I ask? And we spent most of the time outside, and I was like, I'm just gonna ask her, what does she prefer, warm weather or cold weather? Now, would you rather be too hot or too cold? I'm assuming too hot because you just said you liked warm weather better.
I do. I think I'd rather, although not when I sleep at night. Can I put in that caveat?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I'm the same way.
But I'm pretty sure I got sunburned with the little bit of time we were outside today.
Yeah, that's
But
okay.
to be fair,
That
I was
happens.
also outside yesterday and got sunburned. I'm just kind of layering my sunburns right now and hoping that I kind of tan a little bit.
You know that yeah. Okay. That's good for you. It's good skin. That's good skincare. But yes, no, I hear you. I typically get sunburnt like once a year. Even
Really?
like I typically get sunburnt once a year. And then after that I'm good.
Once a year?
Mhm. And I'm outside all the time.
You make me sick.
Okay. That's good.
Once a year? Do you know how many
For
times I
real?
get sunburned if I had to count? It's got to be double digits.
I don't know. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's genetics. I don't know. I mean, we have different skin tones. We have different skin tones. So, but yeah, I typically get sunburnt once a year, and then I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm really
there's
mad.
that.
I need to get
I'm
sunburned
sorry.
once a year. I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry. It just ruined the whole vibe of the show. Telling Sarah I get sunburnt once a year.
Oh, man. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, it typically happens about this time. I'll be outside, too long or whatever, and I'll get a sunburn, and then it's like I'm good. I'm good from there. So it's either that or it'll happen like we go to the beach once a year. So doing that. Yep.
Well, thanks for the question, Amber.
Yeah, you're welcome. We kind of flowed with it. We just kind of kept going with it.
We did.
So yeah.
I do like some snow though every once in a while, like once a year,
No.
just one time,
No.
just once.
Hard pass. I'm probably gonna. I have upset people already, right? You've gotten messages that I've upset people that I didn't like ketchup. I've upset people with that. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
that's
upset
true.
people with that I don't like snow. Yeah, but I
You
don't.
get sunburned once a year. I'm upset.
So I have a knack for upsetting people, and I don't mean to. I am just here. I am who I am, and it's upsetting to people apparently. So you know what? I'm just gonna keep moving on with my life. I don't like my not loving ketchup and snow hating life. So here we go.
I still accept you as a person.
I appreciate that. That's what we're supposed to do, right? Anyway.
All right, Amber.
Anyway.
I'm really stoked about this conversation of homeschool versus any sort of corporate education.
Okay.
And I was looking up points because, so my kids are in private school and Amber's kids are homeschooled. So we've had conversations where I've debated on homeschooling or not. Our current choice is private school.
Okay.
But I had a hard time. I'm like, okay, what does corporate education, and I kind of included public and private school together here,
Sure.
what do they
Mm-hmm.
have that homeschool does not? And I had to
Okay.
really rack my brain.
You had to really come up with stuff.
This
Okay.
was hard. I Googled it because I was like, all right, what do
Uh-huh.
you got, internet?
And what do you got, internet?
So the points that I was looking up for public school, well, corporate
Mm-hmm.
school, um, kind of made me a little upset because
Why?
I was a little offended, honestly. I mean, my kids are in corporate school, but I still get offended on behalf of the homeschoolers, right? Because I want to homeschool too. Um, so one of the points was like a greater sense of community, and I was thinking,
In homeschool or
no,
private school?
no, in corporate school,
There's a bigger sense of community.
yeah,
I would disagree with that, but go ahead.
I would too. And then increased education choice, which I can see where they would think that, but in today's
That's
time,
also incorrect. Go
yeah,
ahead.
eh, in today's time, I think homeschool has just as many opportunities and they can go attend classes at public school. Anyways, I'm going to rant and it's going to all of that to say, like, the points they listed I didn't necessarily agree with. One thing though I did want to pick your brain about
Sure.
a little bit is I do believe that corporate education has better socialization in the fact that they do it every single day.
Okay. So there's all kinds of different things that you can do. So obviously we're involved in church. So he has church friends, right? Then
Right.
he has co-op friends as well. Then he does like ninja classes
Mm-hmm.
or martial arts classes. And so his socialization does end up happening just about every day. If you're talking about socialization with kids,
Right.
he gets adult socialization every single day. 7 days a week, he has an adult socialization. Now, children's socialization with like other kids, 5 days a week. So he's still getting socialization 5 days a week. But I would argue that it's more quality. It may not be 7 hours a day with other kids, but I would argue it's more quality socialization because just because kids are sitting in a classroom, sitting next to each other in a classroom, doesn't mean that they're bonding. It
Right.
doesn't mean that they're like playing or they're creating like I don't know, secret handshakes or something. Like stuff kids do just that are fun and funny and just being a kid. And I would just argue that the socialization I think because it's more intentional socialization and they're
Yes.
not just thrown into um like a classroom with other like people. You know what I mean?
Yes. So I do agree with you completely that the quality is probably better over the
Mhm.
quantity. But that was like at this point I'm kind of reaching about what's better. Like I'm
Yeah.
trying to come up with like, well, I can see that they do they probably get more peer time
Sure.
with kids
That's a
their
given.
age, but I do like that the fact that you get more of an age gap and interaction with such a diverse age in homeschool because you kind of learn how to talk to people not only your own age but younger
Yes.
and older, and I really like that about homeschool.
Yes. So I grew up homeschooled all the way through. In fact, when I was probably junior high, I wanted to go to school. And then when I met my now husband in high school, I asked to go to school simply so I could be with him. I wasn't going to be with him. Like, he had all of his classes, I would have had all of my classes. Like, anyway, but my parents were like, no. And I'm glad they told me no because here's why. I played competitive ball and I would have not been in like it would have changed my team, it would have changed everything, and I'm very thankful that they did not. They were just like, no, we need to. And anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, while they do get more peer time, like that's a given, I like the fact about homeschooling that they interact with kids that aren't just their age.
Yes.
And they interact with kids that, like what you said, they actually interact with kids that are older and kids that are younger. 9 times out of 10, the kids that are older that they're interacting with are not mean to them.
Right.
Whereas in a school setting, from what I have been told by friends that have kids in public schools and things like that, when their younger kids come into contact with older kids, the older kids tend to be mean to the younger kids.
Yeah.
In a homeschool setting, you might have some one off situations. Any homeschool setting that I've been a part of, and again, I grew up homeschooled and now I'm homeschooling my own child, that I've never had an issue where there's been an older child be mean to Joshua, or I've seen that, happen in a
Right.
homeschool setting.
Yes.
So they get to practice that inter-age communication.
And I would say that could have pros and cons, right? Learning how to
Sure.
deal with people who are not necessarily kind to you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's so hard because I understand you want to shelter, not shelter, protect your kids from things like that. But I also want them to learn how to deal in those situations.
Of course.
Because I mean, I've been that person, right? Especially on school buses. Like
Yeah.
the older kids aren't necessarily nice.
No, they're not. And it's because it's not an excuse, but a lot of times the older kids being mean is because they're going through all these like hormone changes and they're going through puberty. They don't know who they are. They don't like what they look like, all this other stuff. And so they take it out on little kids. Now, I'm not saying that homeschooling communities are all rainbows and butterflies all the time. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is that they still get those kids are still kids, but because they're and I gotta be careful because the parents are highly involved with their kids' education in homeschool. And I'm not saying kids that are in corporate education, their parents aren't involved. There are some very involved parents with their kids in corporate education. It's just different, and based on what the Lord has called each family to do is going to be what that family needs to do.
Yes.
That's my ultimately, as parents, it is our responsibility for our children's education, whether that is we educate them ourselves with a curriculum that will set them up positively for life and to love the Lord, love people, and be a decent human being,
Yes.
or we send them somewhere that we trust for them to teach our children and we then reinforce it from the backside.
Yeah.
Either way, it is our responsibility to be highly involved in what they are doing.
Yes. I was gonna say not everybody can homeschool and has that
Right.
opportunity, but
Right.
they still need to take the time to invest in your student and your child outside of school hours if you are
Yes.
able to do so.
Yes, 100%. Now, I want to go back and hit on one of the things where, you were pulling off the internet.
Yeah.
One of the things, I think you said not as much what did you say? Class choices?
Increased education choice, yeah.
Okay, that is someone who is not educated in homeschool.
Mm.
Meaning let me tell you this. So, Joshua has a very specific way that he learns. Each kid is different in how they learn. They still need to learn the basics of like reading, writing, arithmetic, and all of that. But each child learns that differently. Some kids learn by sitting down, reading a book, answering questions. Some kids learn by having things in their hands and manipulating things.
Yes.
And as a homeschooler, you have to know, or even for any parent, you have to know how your child learns. So the curriculum that we were using, it's fine, but it's not really his learning style, right? So
Yes.
he's learning what he needs to learn, but we kind of struggle with it because it's very much a read and answer questions. He needs something that is more manipulative. Does that
Yes.
make sense?
Absolutely.
I have spent since fall researching and studying curriculums on what would be the best for his learning style, his age. And the beauty of homeschool is that you could either buy a package or you can piece it all together so that it fits exactly what he's doing and what he needs. And, or, her, who, whichever, your child is. And that, since the fall, it is almost April. It's March. It's the very end of March. And I'm not kidding when I say I have been researching since October, and we finally made a decision last week on what we were going to do. That's how many curriculums there are out there. Studied on the internet. I've gone to other homeschool moms. So that is incorrect on the opportunity of curriculum. And I'm not saying, and I know you pulled that off the internet.
Right. I'm going to say that I did speak. My thought process, too, on this, one, it's almost overwhelming the amount of choices for homeschool curriculums.
Yes. Yes.
But two, I was thinking, and this would have been my response before I knew as much about homeschool, but like more in the later years, like junior high and high school would be more increased chances to do extracurricular. But I have since found out that that's not necessarily true because I know that some homeschool students actually send their kids to public school to participate in certain things like maybe band or a sport, or they do sports through like the city, which is what did you do sports through the city?
So I did softball through the city, but I did basketball. There are homeschool organizations. You can look this up. The homeschool organizations across America are vast. And I graduated in 2006. It's 2023.
Yeah.
When I graduated high school in 2006, we did basketball tournament. There was state basketball tournaments, national basketball tournaments, and all the different sports. So volleyball, softball, baseball, you name it. And where we would literally go for a week and play teams from across the country, play competitive basketball, and we'd be put in different divisions based on how we were seated at the beginning. It was fantastic. It was such fond memories. And there were still politics, but it wasn't as harsh as the public schools. And that was one thing that I had friends that went to public school that dropped out of sports. They were good, but they dropped out of sports because they didn't get to play because they weren't in the whatever, like in the clique.
See, and that's a little bit harder too because, sorry if I'm interrupting.
No, you're good.
I went to a really, really small school, so I was able to play every sport that I wanted to, and I know that some schools don't let you play multiple sports while you're participating in one. But, like, with the city that we live in, it's so much bigger than the school I graduated from, so, like,
yes,
you have a varsity, like, and a junior varsity, and you have people that don't make the team. So, everybody made the team at my school because it was so small. Everybody got to play. So it would be different if I sent my kids to like a public school because they wouldn't necessarily get to play as much or have that opportunity as you would like in a smaller school too.
Right. Well, and like you were saying a minute ago about like as they get older, like with sports and classes and things like that, I actually got to go sit in my junior and senior year of high school. I took college classes. So like the sciences and stuff, where it got to the point where, I needed the lab part of the sciences. I would just take the college class because it had the lab part and it had the lecture part.
Yes.
And so there's that option for homeschoolers as well. There's also co-ops that happen all over the country that are either extracurricular co-ops or they are core class co-ops. There are moms that I know personally that have taught in high schools, like that they'll come out of and teach math to their homeschool kids.
Yeah.
So, that happens as as well.
Yeah. And we had the schools offer college classes usually to like their junior or seniors because I took algebra in as my senior year, college algebra
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
English.
Yeah,
So I feel like, but overall, I feel like you have more freedom and more flexibility, especially in homeschool.
you do, 100%.
For I don't know, I would hate to say like as a parent that has their child in private school, I can see there's so many more benefits from homeschool. You know.
There is, and this is this is coming from someone. My husband grew up in public school, like he was public school from um, kindergarten through 12th grade. I was homeschooled kindergarten through 12th grade, and then went to college. So both of us came from different perspectives and different backgrounds. And when I talked to him before we had Joshua, and I said I wanted to stay home and homeschool, like at first I thought private school. We did private school for 2 years in preschool. So like he only went a couple of days a week for a few hours. He did not thrive in that setting. He didn't.
Yeah.
Period. Like there I could go into that story, but I won't. It's just not necessary. He did not thrive. When uh the disease that shall not be named happened in 2020, it and he came home within weeks. He was a completely different kid because I was sitting down with him, we were working on his stuff, and he was a completely different child. And I told David, I was like, we're homeschooling,
Mm.
this is what's happening. And he said I agree, let's do it. And so we've not looked back.
Yeah.
And I think that it, it's we're able, if we want to go hiking on a Tuesday, we
Yeah.
can do Monday and Tuesday's classes, like the work on Monday, and take Tuesday off and go hiking. And that gets us out in nature. We can talk about the things that we've learned. We can look at the benefits of homeschooling. It's hard. It is hard work. It is
Yes.
not easy. And there are days when I wake up and I'm thinking, I don't know how I'm going to keep homeschooling. But at the same time, I also know I want to keep homeschooling because I can see how well he does with it. And it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, we're teaching him about life. Not
Yes.
only are we teaching him what he needs to know, like reading, wrath,
Read.
reading, math, and science and all the things he needs to know, but we're also teaching him about life.
Mm-hmm.
We are his main influence. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
me and John have talked about it. John's still a little bit leaning more towards corporate private school for us
Uh-huh.
because he brings in his schooling a lot, and he was more advanced, and he said that he had to learn how to deal with people who weren't as smart as him, and he had to
Mm-hmm.
learn how to be bored in class, and he had to learn that not everything is going to go at the pace that you want it to. And he said that having to learn those hard things in a classroom setting was really beneficial for him.
You can still learn that tactic not sitting in a classroom and under the umbrella of a safer environment. And not necessarily safer, but like you can learn those life skills without having to sit in a classroom. I'm sad for him, honestly, that he sat in a classroom, that he was more advanced
Mm-hmm.
and sat in a classroom bored out of his mind, that someone could not come to him and challenge him.
Right.
Whereas if he would have been in a homeschool setting, and I'm gonna make people mad. Oh well. If he was in a homeschool setting and his mom or whoever or his dad or whoever was homeschooling him saw he was not being challenged, they could challenge him. They could find a curriculum. They could go ahead and put him in college classes. They could have challenged him. There's ways to learn the lessons of dealing with people that are not of the same IQ level or caliber as you are. And we have to be careful about saying stuff like that, but like without having to sit for hours on end in a classroom bored out of your mind.
Right.
That's my thought on that.
Yeah. And honestly, it's as the age increases with my children, I wouldn't mind them being more in a public school setting versus homeschool or even private school. I feel like the younger years, though, are really crucial
Mm-hmm.
for me because not only are you developing their values, their core values and beliefs, you're there's so much to teach
Yeah.
people that know nothing, right?
Yeah.
At
Mm-hmm.
least you've taught them skills, or private schools taught them skills on how to handle certain situations that whenever they're in like a junior high or high school, that hopefully they can utilize those skills and kind of figure out life on their own with you guiding them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't know any of that at such a young age. So I can see how, like, as the child progresses, it wouldn't be as big of a deal like in later school, but that's just my conviction for school. But
Sure.
everybody
And
is
convict.
different.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's different, and every conviction is different. Like there was a man that I knew growing up that he told my parents that they were doing it all wrong by homeschooling me because I'm supposed to be a missionary in the public schools because there are kids in public schools that need to know about Jesus. And my parents clap back for that was, you're right, there are kids in public school that need to know about Jesus. What are you doing to tell them about Jesus? Why
Mm.
are you putting that on my child
Right?
to do that? Yes, that is her job as a Christian to tell other people about Jesus. But why are you pushing your conviction on me? Now, and that's a whole nother topic. That's a whole other thing of conviction versus doctrine.
Right?
Because you can have different convictions as long as it lines up with the doctrine, right?
Right. And we've
So
talked about that a little bit in the previous
yes,
podcast.
yes, we have talked about that. So I mean, because I knew kids that in the younger years they homeschooled. Then they got to a certain point, like eighth, ninth grade, or even 10th or 11th grade, they went to either private school or public school. And that was because the parents and when I we had these conversations, the parents said they felt like their kids were mature enough to be able to stand in their faith and be able to do what they needed to do at school. And whereas in their younger years, they wanted to make sure that they knew their child knew who they were.
Yes.
And like what you were saying, those early years are so crucial to
Yes.
your child knowing who they are and that kind of thing. So I do want to make a specific point and keeping on track with upsetting people. I there is in my opinion, and I feel like I have the right to have this kind of opinion because I grew up being homeschooled and I've now been homeschooling my child for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And there is a right way to do it and there is a wrong way to do it. If you do not have I'm not saying that your schedule has to be rigid, but if you have no kind of routine, if you're just whatever happens when it comes to their schooling, that is incorrect and you're doing a disservice to that child.
Yeah.
That is my thought on that because here's why. Study after study, one of my dearest and closest friends is a has her PhD. She with like child psychology, like she works with kids on a daily that have like learning disabilities and all these different kinds of things. And she and I have talked about this. Kids thrive on structure, whether they are advanced, whether they are just kind of somewhere in the middle, or whether they have some kind of special need. They thrive on structure. They
Yeah.
thrive on it. It does not have to be rigid where it's like, okay, at 9:14 and we are going to do the Pledge of Allegiance and that's going to approximately take us 30 seconds. I mean, there are people like that and that's just exhausting. But Joshua wakes up in the morning, and his daddy wakes him up on when he leaves for work. He goes in, he tells him good morning, opens the shade, says it's time to get up. It's time to start the day. Joshua gets his clothes on and gets changed, makes his bed, brushes his teeth, comes in to eat breakfast, and we start school by 8:30.
Yeah.
He knows that. Now sometimes we start at 8:40 because something happens, whatever. But he doesn't go to bed at night wondering what time we're going to start school the next day.
Right.
He doesn't but he knows that we do school in the morning, and then either mama works in the afternoon, or he's going to go hang out with Nana and Pawpaw, or we're going to do work block, play block, where we alternate, and that's a whole nother conversation that we can talk about.
Right.
But he knows what's coming, and while it's not rigid, he understands where that is. And when I started putting that in place, and it wasn't just, well, we might start at 10 o'clock this morning, or we might start at 1 o'clock today, when he knows we do school in the morning, with the exception of Wednesday, because we have Bible study on Wednesday mornings, but with the exception of Wednesday, he thrives on it. He knows what to expect, and he flows with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are people that I know, like of homeschoolers, that they're like, well, we didn't do school today. Oh, okay. Well, why not? Well, we just didn't get to it. What do you mean you didn't? What do you mean you didn't get to it? Like, and again, I love the flexibility of homeschools.
Yes.
Homeschool. I love it. The vast majority of the time. Anyway.
Yeah.
You got to have structure. You got to have some kind of flow. And if you don't have the self-discipline to do that with your children, one, how are you going to expect them to learn how to do it? And two, you might want to consider hiring a tutor if you want to educate them from home, so that way they can provide the structure.
Yes. That's one of the things I had in comment. I guess I wasn't thinking about maybe those that aren't homeschooling well. I just assumed, like, I assume if you're homeschooling, you're wanting to put in that effort, right? To make
you would
school.
Think, yes.
I mean, so I'm going to give everybody, all the homeschoolers, the benefit of the doubt, like that you're wanting to do the best that you can for your child.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I had structure listed for both school and education, just because structure and routine are so important for children. Like, I was a teacher before I was a stay-at-home mom. So like, when I became a stay-at-home mom, I know, like, these are the routines I'm going to implement. I'm teaching my child, like, what are we going to do before bedtime, so they know, so it makes it easier to flow into things. Like, and what are we going to do? I talk about, hey, what's our plan for the day? We talk about what the day looks like, so they know what's going to happen, and there's not as many meltdowns. Like, I cannot stress, like, how much structure is important for little children, or like adults.
It makes them feel safe. Yes. It makes them feel safe. If they know what's coming, if they have an idea, again, it doesn't have to be down to the very minute. But if they have an idea, they know what's coming. They, like Joshua, he knows Daddy's going to come get him up when he's on his way out the door for work. He knows that he's going to get up, he's going to put his clothes on, he's going to eat his breakfast, and we're going to start our school.
Yeah.
Like, he knows that. That's safe. If we were to wake up one day, I was like, you know what? We're just going to do this and he'd be like, wait a minute. What are we doing? You know.
I can picture him being like that. I can picture him, like, trying to keep you in line. Honestly,
he would be like, Mama, we're supposed to be doing that. Mama. Yeah, 100%.
Yes. So
he's funny.
As a homeschool and work from home mom, how do you balance working and home life?
So I actually, what's funny, this question gets asked a lot to women. So I asked this question actually to David, just as a funny, because I was like, you work, you're out of the house for however many hours per week. He gets to work it from home occasionally, but anyway. And I was like, and then you come home and you have a very excited 6-year-old boy to see you. He wants to play, and we want to eat dinner, and we're going to work out. I was like, and then, like, you have no alone time. with the exception of your commute, because it's about a 30-minute commute based on where we live. And I said, like, how do you do that? And he was like, that 30-minute commute is very helpful. It is very helpful. So it's interesting. But anyway, I digressed a little bit. But I balance it sometimes very well and other times not well at all. And I think I don't I think I have this air about me that makes it seem like I've got it figured out.
You do.
I don't have it. I don't. I don't. And the reason I say that, and I'm being very careful, is because I literally had someone say this phrase to me last week. I'm not like you. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's okay. You are you, and I am me. And I'll be honest, it really bothered me. And uh, not because she said it, but because she felt that way. That, because I don't. I do my best.
Right.
And I know what my triggers are, where if I don't have some sense of routine and resemblance of where I'm going, or if I don't have a decently clean space, it makes me anxious. It makes me kind of freak out a little bit, and I just do things that I know I need mentally to be able to do what the Lord has called me to do. The Lord has called me to homeschool. The Lord has called me to minister to women through this podcast and through fitness coaching. The Lord has also called me to start working on teaching old school stuff to Joshua, like how to grow our own food and, that kind of thing. It's a lot. But I have gotten very clear and specific callings on that. And so each and every day, I ask the Lord, you know what my routine is. If you want me to change that, show me what it is. Show me where I need to change. Show me what you want me to do each and every day. And sometimes he will completely interrupt my day and my routine. But most of the time, he meets me right there in my routine.
Yes.
Because I'm listening to what he has told me to do, and I'm doing my very best each day to do a little bit in each of those callings.
See.
So, yeah.
What the woman said to you, that I'm not like you, I think I can see why it would bother you, but I also see it as like a compliment. Yes, you look like you have it all together. If you're just looking from the outside, I know you well enough now to know, like, that you don't always have it put together, which is fine. None of us do, which is important to say, because from the outside looking in, it's deceptive. But saying that, you just portray a lot of confidence because you know where God has placed you. So from the outside looking in, yes, it looks like you have it all together because, like, you know who you are. You know where you're supposed to be. But, I mean, not every day is perfect either, right?
Sure, of course.
So I can see why it'd bother you, but I would also take it as a compliment.
Sure, okay, great. I will do that. I will do that. I will take it as a compliment. I guess what I was saying was, like, I don't want to be one of those people. I don't want to be one of those stuck-up Christ followers that are like, I have Jesus. I have it all figured out. No, right. I don't. Jesus is what gets me through my day.
Yes.
Like he meets me every morning when I wake up, and I spend that time with him. Every morning I can count on him. And he meets me throughout the day exactly where I am. And, like, there are days, my sister and I have this running joke where, like, we're on this roller coaster, right? Because she's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing, and a lot of it's parallel, but a lot of it is completely different. And so we have these jokes where it's like, there's this GIF. I think it's two brothers, but, like, one brother is, like, hyperventilating. Like, it's, like, freaking out on the roller coaster, and the other one's just talking to him like, it's okay, everything's fine. I'm like, we reverse roles on this all the time. And she was like, sometimes in the same day. I was like, maybe even in the same hour. But yes, where it's like you just have these moments where you're like, I'm panicking, everything is falling apart. Anyway, it's just funny. But my goal my goal is to show people that Jesus loves them,
Yeah.
and that no matter what you've done, literally no matter what you've done, he forgave a thief on a cross, and he forgave so many people. No matter what you've done, he loves you. He wants to have a relationship with you.
Yeah.
And that, I guess that's why it bothered me so much that she was like, I'm not like you, because I don't want to portray perfection,
Yes.
because I'm not at all. I'm a
I
basket case. It's true. Like, it is
I can
100% true.
understand where you're coming from there for sure.
So,
So you're
that was
telling
that.
me, as a summary, the way to balance work and home is to put God first.
Yes, that was a really long way of saying that. Thank you for summing that up in like 5 words. But it's true. When you put your life in the order it needs to be,
Yeah.
it's God, husband, children, everything else. When you put it in that order, there will be days that are hard,
Mm-hmm.
but you will look back and go, there he was there, there he was there, he was there, he was there, he was there, he was there. And his fingerprints and his hands are all over everything. And Hebrews 11 talks about, that's called the hall of faith, right? Where it's like, by faith, so and so did this. By faith, so and so did this. Each and every verse talks about by faith. And every single one of those people, their relationship, God called them to do something absolutely insane in human terms to do, but they did it by faith and God blessed them for it. Yeah, their lives were hard. Yeah, their lives were, but it was by faith that they did it. It was action on our part.
Yeah.
And they put God first, and it worked.
I think that's the
So,
problem too. Is that I think we get so focused on our hurts and all the problems that we have that we fail to look for God in those moments. And we're like,
yes,
people are like, God was never there. Like he never helped me here. He never did you look for him? Like
yes. Mm-hmm.
it is hard to see God sometimes when you are focused on your pain and not looking up at him. But
So there's scripture after scripture of Jesus. Jesus will meet you where you are, but he will not leave you there.
yes.
He will not leave you there. If you stay there, it is because you made that choice. He will come to you no matter where you are. He came to the man at the pool of Bethsaida. He met people exactly where they were. He came to Lazarus's tomb, but he didn't leave Lazarus in his tomb. He brought him out of the tomb.
Mhm.
God will meet you where you are, but he will not leave you there. He
Yep.
won't. You get up and you go with him. And as you walk with him, he will heal your hurts. He will heal. He is faithful. I have seen it time and again in my life, in my friends' lives, in my family's life. He is faithful, and there is just absolutely no one like him.
Yeah.
I to say I'm absolutely crazy about him is true. I'm
Mm.
just absolutely crazy about him. And the more I learn about him, the more I learn the intricacies of our universe and how there's more to our history than what we have been taught. There's more. There's more. And that
Yes.
he is the sovereign and head of it is mind blowing. But he wants a relationship with me. He
Yes.
meets me every morning when I come upstairs to my office and read his word. It's mind blowing.
Mhm.
So, anyway, yeah.
I love
When
that.
you're, yeah. So, there's that.
Well, so putting God first. Again.
Again, putting God first. Okay, more practical terms. Putting God first. Schedule. I schedule my week. So like, I'll text you
Mhm.
on. You've noticed, like on the
Yes.
weekends, be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you want to hang out this week?" Because I'm scheduling and I need my schedule.
I think you mentioned that in the previous podcast. So now when you text me, I'm like, oh, Amber's planning her week.
I'm planning my week. You want to hang out? I can get you in on Tuesday.
Tuesday, I'll take it. Oh my goodness. Do you ever find it difficult to separate work and like being with your child?
Yes.
Are you pretty? I didn't know.
Yes,
I was gonna ask if you're pretty good about keeping work separate, like keeping work at work, children, and husband at home. Just being able to focus on that.
it's it's a little bit harder because my office is right upstairs.
Right.
I've gotten better at it because I've made it a priority to be better at it. So like when we're doing school, for instance, when we're doing school, it's me and him.
Yes.
I may answer a text message here or there. I may, whatever, but it I do give him things to do on his own because he's got to learn how to do things on his own, and I'm not sitting there like, okay, do this or do this. But like anyway, if when we're doing school, it's me and him.
Right.
I'm not I'm not creating content. I'm not texting clients. I'm not doing that kind of stuff while we're doing school. So it is. I've gotten better at it, but yes, it can, especially when your office is right upstairs and you've got stuff to do.
Yes.
I think the turning point for me was when I looked at Joshua and he looked like a young man. This was about maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Mhm.
No, maybe longer than that because it was right before my break. So it was about a year ago now. About a year ago. Gosh, time goes by fast. Anyway, about a year ago, I looked at him and he looked like a young man. He didn't look like he was still a boy, obviously, but like, he didn't look like a baby
Yeah.
anymore. And he didn't even look like a little kid. He looked like a young man. And I was like, oh my goodness, time is going by so fast. And I'm even homeschooling him and I feel like I'm missing a lot.
Yeah.
So that was another reason I took that break too. But yeah. So
I found there will be moments. It's harder for me because my work is kind of more intermittent depending on if I have a photo shoot that I've done that I need to edit, or
sure.
if I need to edit like the podcast or do computer work for John for the home business. So it's
Mhm.
not always like I'm going to work on work at this time because I may not have anything to do at this time, right? It just depends on if
Mhm.
there's something on my list.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but when I am working, the kids will come and bother me and bother me and bother me, and I'll just be like, I need to work on this. I had to give myself a set time. I need to work on this for this much longer, and then I will
Mhm.
come and play with you.
Mhm.
And it's hard because I'm like, I don't want to stop projects in the middle of doing them,
Mhm.
but I also don't want to miss out on time with my kids all the time, and I don't want them to ever
Yes.
say like, you never play with me. Although I've heard these, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna point out,
Well,
we're gonna stop
yes.
that.
Yeah, we're gonna put a stop to that because we know that's not true.
Yes.
Yes.
But I don't
Mhm.
want to hear those words either. So
Yeah.
I try to make sure that if they do say those words, I have instances where, like, no, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. So it kind of combats that statement if it does come up, but I don't want it to come up either. So,
Sure. And so that's interesting that you brought that up because Joshua and I have had that conversation recently. And we do time blocks, which I think we've talked about before,
yeah,
where I'll give myself 30 or 45 minutes depending on what I know I need to get done because I'm the same way. And if I'm in the middle of something and I'm like, go go go, like I can, and then I changed gears. I changed out of work gears back into mom gear.
right.
That's two completely different hats. Two completely different hats. And so if he comes to me saying, "You haven't played with me," no, sir. Let's review. Let's talk about what we've done today, and we'll be able to list those things. And so then we've also talked about, uh, very carefully, but making sure we have correct information
Mm-hmm.
before we say a statement. So him just saying, "You haven't played with me today," that's incorrect information. Before we make a statement, let's think before we speak and make sure that we have correct information. If that's the way you feel, we will talk about that. At the same time, I also know that he's getting old enough to know, and he may have even heard me comment to David about, sometimes I feel like guilty because
Mm-hmm.
some days I have to work more than others. And anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So back to the putting God first thing is asking the Lord, okay, Lord, am I spending enough time with my child?
Yeah.
Is he getting the attention he needs? I need you to give me some kind of thumbs up, thumbs down. Show me where's the truth.
Yes.
That, and praying about even stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's good.
The work block, play block thing is something that we have found works really well because it gives him an expectation. When I'm in a work block, and I'll write it out for him. When I'm in a work block, he'll read, or he'll play with his trains, or sometimes we'll even go outside, and I'll just, because we live in the woods, I'll just let him go play in the woods, and I'll do my thing anyway. So yeah, I mean, again, it's that setting that expectation. When he knows that in 20 minutes or so we're going to play, he's not sitting there bugging me for it.
Right. And that kind of goes back to routine, too. Having that routine and that structure.
Mm-hmm. So, this has been so good.
It has been good. I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Amber.
Yes. I really enjoyed this. This was a good conversation. I felt like we had, good ebb and flow and good, alternating points on things.
Yeah.
So,
I think we kind of fall in the same space, though, really.
Yes. Yeah, we do. Yeah. It's very funny how differently we handle things. Like, you handle things differently than I handle things. And I even mentioned this to David. I was like, we're such a stark contrast on how we handle things. And I was like, I think it's good. He was like, absolutely. He said, you guys are agreeing on the main points of life. Like, as long as you guys agree on the big stuff, he was like, the rest of it's just filler. So anyway, it's fun. I enjoy it. I really like that we've revamped it, and I've got somebody to have a conversation with.
I know. That's what makes good friends, though. You share really your core values, right? And then you can just debate all the little stuff.
Yeah, exactly. We share the core values, and then the other stuff is just filler. So, well, thank you for listening to this episode of Jesus Coffee and Barbells. Next episode, episode 30, we're going to be talking about all things food. So we're going to compare some different diets. We're going to talk about what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, all those different kinds of things. How do you plan your meals? And it's going to be packed full of stuff. And if it needs to be split into 2 episodes, we'll split it into 2 episodes because food is a big topic, and frankly, as a coach, it's what I get a lot of questions about. It's one of the top questions. What do I eat? Okay,
I still ask you things about food, I'm pretty sure.
You do. You do, and it's fine. It's fine. I love talking about food. You're probably gonna have to be like, I want to turn to Seek next episode, because I'm gonna be like, okay, we don't eat this. We don't eat artificial dyes. Yeah, no, it will not. We will have a conversation. I will behave. I promise. I will behave. So thank you for listening to this episode of Jesus Coffee and Barbells. My name is Amber George. You can find me on Instagram at Refined by Iron. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at JesusCoffeeBarbells.
You can follow Sarah, which is me, at Mommy McMomface
on Instagram. Oh, I think we're done for the day. Have a great day, everybody. We'll